So, last class we have discussed about the course content and few introduction part, and today also I will tell you little bit introduction, then we will go for the topics. So, before going to start this content, I told you about the electromagnetic radiation, right, and their behavior. You know now what are the electromagnetic radiations, which is consisting of a wide band starting from ultraviolet to infrared, and the energy of the ultraviolet photons are much more larger in comparison to IR. So, when we take the spectra, there is a region called as visible, ultraviolet and infrared, and there is a small part of this UV region from 1 to 0.1 to 10 nanometer, we are getting this X-ray radiation, right. So, this X-ray radiation is important. So, when we are dealing with physics in particular and science in general, we should have to follow a law which is mandatory to explain all scientific phenomena, including physics, chemistry, life science, any science, medical science, engineering science, everywhere you have to follow that law, otherwise you cannot understand any science. And that common law is very natural. All systems all the time tends to become stable, right. All systems all the time tries to become stable by acquiring minimum energy. A very common law for science, not necessarily for physics, but for all the branches of science, everywhere it is applied. So, if you can understand and explain all the results that you have learned in terms of this law, then you are understanding science, otherwise not. So, try to explain everything in terms of that law, which tells all the systems all the time tries to become stable by acquiring minimum energy. That is a very common law in science. One must have to understand and explain everything in science in terms of that common law, otherwise you are not understanding science, may it be physics, chemistry, life science, earth science, any science, engineering science, medical science, all the science are following that law, right. So, that means when you are telling that there is a phenomena, phenomena means what? What do you mean by a phenomena? If any change that occurs in a system, then that is a phenomena. It may be natural or artificial, does not matter, but when you consider any system and it goes on changing, which is a process, that change is called as the phenomena. So, now the question is how that phenomena are going on around us, whether it is natural or artificial, we have to decide. And the natural means the materials which are available to us in this nature without synthesizing, without any kind of chemical reaction or something else is not there, then obviously that kind of system or material is a natural material. Many more natural materials are there, and all the time, every time we are dealing with them. So, now if you are telling the natural system or natural material, whatever it may it be a stone lying on the surface of earth, may it be a plant, may it be animal, anything, everything can be considered to be a system, and phenomena are going on all the time, every time. You cannot control it, we do not have the control of it. So, it is going on, but the question is now we are interested to learn about some particular phenomena which are interested for our understanding. So, if some phenomena is going on, then you have to understand why and how that phenomena is going on. May it be associated with an artificial system or natural system, does not matter, but what is your system, whether it is a natural system or artificial system, and if that system is changing with time, then how and why it is changing, then you are learning about that phenomenon, otherwise not. So, when now let us say think about a stone lying on the surface of earth. Of course, it is natural, is a natural system, and this system may not be important for a layman, but for we people it is very important to understand what kind of phenomena are associated with that piece of stone. Now, the question is then what are the phenomena associated with that kind of stone? which is natural, and the phenomena are obviously natural, because the radiation that is available to us in this universe is covering all the electromagnetic spectra. Everything is there with in this nature, all are there, UV, visible, IR. So, then now when this system is lying on the surface of earth, then now imagine how many phenomena are going on, how many phenomena are going on with that system, right, because the whole electromagnetic spectra is coming and interacting with that system, and due to that interaction phenomena are going on, and you can never count how many such phenomena are going on with that piece of stone. If you consider X-ray also, many such phenomena are associated with that piece of stone, because there is some change. When photon is coming and interacting with any material, there will be change, and that change is a phenomena, may it be chemical or physical or biological. Phenomena are basically three types: chemical phenomena, physical phenomena, biological phenomena. That depends, if the system is biological or living, then you can tell the phenomena is biological phenomena. If it is chemical phenomena, then obviously you can tell now what is the difference then between chemical and physical phenomena, right. So, when now if you ask question from where that stone came, then how can you answer to that question? It is natural, no doubt, but from where it comes, how it comes? Then the answer to it is because of some chemical reactions that occurs among the elements present in this universe. Otherwise, it is not possible to get any material available in this nature. Then if you want to know about that piece of stone which is available in the nature, then obviously you are, and some phenomena is going with that chemical reaction, then that is a chemical phenomena. But once the material is with you, like the stone, if stone from where comes, then deals with chemical phenomena, but once stone is there, after that everything is physics, physical phenomena. There is a difference between chemical and physical phenomena. If you ask the question from how that system came, obviously it is because of some chemical phenomena, but after the system comes up, everything rest is physical, right. For example, if I will take the very common example of water molecule, from where this water molecule is coming, is it chemical or physical phenomena? If you ask from where the water is coming, obviously it is chemical phenomena, because of the reaction of hydrogen and oxygen gas. The process is going on, and that kind of process is called as the chemical phenomena. But once water is there, it may go to ice, steam, everything is physics, they are physical phenomena. So, the difference between physical and chemical is that if you analyze from where it comes, obviously it is because of chemical reaction, and that is chemical phenomena, and after it falls, then everything rest is physical phenomena. But again, if your system is living, may it be plant or animal, then again physics and chemistry are involved, and they are named as the biophysical phenomena or biochemical phenomena. Once the system is living, then it is biophysical or biochemical phenomena. So, like that you imagine now how many types of phenomena are going on around us in this nature. You can never count it, but still we are trying to learn about this nature, how and why it happens, what kind of phenomena are there in this universe going on. Then you have to concentrate only to a particular part, that consisting of a system and obviously the energy available in this universe. Then now coming to the X-ray region, if you tell, let us forget about all other parts of the electromagnetic spectra and consider only about the X-ray spectra, which is in the range of 10 nanometer in the electromagnetic spectra. So, then now question is, they are all radiations, and all radiations are electromagnetic in nature, that does not require any medium to propagate, like progressive wave. Progressive wave like sound and the water wave all the time requires a medium, but this kind of wave does not require any medium, they can travel in vacuum also. But when they go to the medium, their speed will change. In vacuum or air, the speed is speed of light. The whole electromagnetic spectra, the radiation goes with the speed of light, that is 3 × 10 meter per second, 8 meter per second. All the radiations may be in UV, IR, visible, everything is going with that speed, which is the speed of light. And if it travels in any other medium, depending on the character and nature of that medium, their speed will change, and that is the refractive index of that medium. that will tell you with what speed it will go in that medium, may it be solid, liquid, gas or plasma. But in vacuum or air, they all travels with the same speed, that is the speed of light. Then now, if you consider that, let us say I am telling X-ray photon, when I am defining an X-ray photon, it must have a specific energy. Energy of the photon is very important, and if you are defining a photon, may it be X-ray or any other radiation, you should have to understand what is the energy of the photon, and the energy is nothing but quanta, that is your h nu. The energy of the photon is h nu. So, when this photon, let us say I am telling one photon is coming and interacting with this piece of stone, obviously it is there in nature all the time, every time. And the question now is, we are not realizing because we do not have that kind of detector with us to detect X-ray radiations. Otherwise, if you consider the visible photon, you think about the visible photon, let us say one visible photon is coming and interacting with this piece of stone, then the phenomena are visible to us because of the length order of that interaction, the length order of the wavelength which can be detected by our eye, and the stone is also visible to us. So, everything is visible and the phenomena is visible. But once you go to the atomic level, molecular level, nothing is visible because you can never see the atom, never see the molecule, never see the ion, but still phenomena are going on, still phenomena are going on. So, if you want to learn about that, length scale plays very important role, how to know where is the atom and what it is doing, how it is interacting with its surrounding, and that tells about the behavior and property of any material, any system. So, you must have to understand what kind of atoms are involved in the system and how they are interacting among themselves. Otherwise, you can never explain, never characterize any material in any way, and that is called as the characterization of a material. Means you have to establish the structure and property relation, that is characterization. Structure means not the external structure, rather atomic, molecular or ionic structure. If you understand the structure and their interaction, obviously all the behavior and property of any system is well known to you. So, now the question is how to see them, the atoms or molecules or ions, how they are arranged, how they are interacting, because you have to understand their behavior. Unless you understand the structure, you can never understand the behavior or properties. So, first question is now how to see them. Can you see the atoms, molecules, ions? No, not possible, because the length order scale for the radiation that requires to see the atoms is never compatible with these visible radiations. They are extremely small, because the dimension of an atom is 1 angstrom, 0.1 nanometer. So, this visible radiation is never going to that range. Then how can you collect the information about the stone and the associated phenomena? Many phenomena are going on which are unknown to us because of the length scale. You may tell that I can see the stone, but you cannot see the atoms, molecules present in the stone. You can see the stone with the visible radiation, but unless you see the atoms or molecules or ions present in the piece of stone, you cannot understand what kind of phenomena are going on with that piece of stone. So, you have to see them by any way, otherwise you can never explain what kind of behavior that material or system will do, how it will behave, what is its properties. Everything is known only when their atomic, molecular or ionic arrangement is known to you, otherwise not possible, and that is called as the characterization of materials, may it be living or non-living, does not matter, but you have to see them. What is the molecular arrangement, what is the atomic arrangement, what is the ionic arrangement, because that will tell you how they are interacting with each other, because all the properties are originated because of the interaction only. And unless you understand the interaction, you can never explain any property, may it be thermal, electrical, mechanical, magnetic, superconducting, anything, whatever it may be. All the properties are originated at that level, how they are interacting, what is their surrounding. Therefore, one has to understand what are the positions of an entity. Entity means may it be atom, molecule or ion, and its surrounding. Otherwise, it is difficult to understand the character of any material, right. So, something is visible, something is invisible. Invisible because of the length scale order, nothing else. So, the length scale order is very important. When you are telling that I am visualizing this pen Why? Because of the length order of the span is comparable and compatible with the visible radiations available to us. The visible radiations are compatible to go for some phenomena with this span, that is why you are realizing that there is a pen. But imagine this pen is consisting of many molecules, can you see the molecules? No, never, impossible, because obviously this pen is consisting of some molecules. If you want to understand what is the behavior and character of this pen, you must have to see how these molecules of this pen is there and why they are, how they are interacting with each other, because the length scale order of the molecule is never compatible with the visible radiation available here. That is why the length order is playing very important role in science in general. So, when you think about any phenomena, very important thing is the length scale order. What is the order of the length scale? You want to see anything. So, therefore, this wavelength plays very important role, because that will define the length scale order of the radiation, because the radiation or the photons are going and interacting with any system all the time, every time, all the time, every time. But if you want to study about any phenomena because of that kind of interaction, then you must have to understand the length scale order of that system. At what length scale you want to see, whether you want to see it in the centimeter scale, meter scale, kilometer scale or nanometer scale, that depends, right. The system consisting of all the scales starting from kilometer to nanometer, picometer, even still smaller than that. But at what level you want to see, collect the information about the system, that is very important to understand the behavior and property of the material. So, when you think about the material, you must have to understand first what is the material, from where it comes, and what are the constituents of that material and how they interact with each other, because that is the origin of all the behavior, all the properties of any system, may it be living or non-living. Now, let us see, now the question is first how to see the atoms, how to see the atoms or molecules or ions or macromolecules. Macromolecule means big molecules, they are called as the macro, right. For example, cellulose, protein, they are all macromolecules because of their larger dimension, length order. And similarly, there are small entities like atoms, molecules, which are very small order, length order, because the atom is having a dimension of only 1 angstrom or 0.1 nanometer. The dimension of an atom is 0.1 nanometer, which is same as 1 angstrom. So, now see, tell me how to see the atoms then, because you have to see it, otherwise you can never understand what is happening inside the system. What kind of atoms are involved there, how they are interacting with each other. First you would locate where the atoms are, what kind of atoms are there, how they are interacting with each other, all those information must be with you. Then now the question is, if the atomic dimension is 0.1 nanometer and the length scale order is extremely small in comparison to the visible radiation, then how to collect information about that atom? How will you know that where is the atom, what kind of atom, how they are interacting, what are the atoms present in the system. So, now tell, if as I tell you the example, this is a pen, visible radiation is with us, right. So, radiation comes, interacts with this, then after interaction many phenomena takes place, but the phenomenon of scattering and reflection helps us to tell that something is there here, because the image is created inside the retina of my eye, which is connected to the brain, and brain will know that something is there before me and some phenomena is going on, may it be scattering or diffraction or refraction, interference, any phenomena, because of the photon available to it depending on the conditions. What condition is satisfied to go for that kind of phenomena? But definitely there is some phenomena which gives us the information about the pen which is present before me or you. So, to collect the information, some phenomena is a must. Then what is the phenomena which can give you the information? Various phenomena are there with the photon interaction, but what phenomena you need to explain about the system? Like for example, there is reflection, refraction, transmission, polarization, absorption, interference, everything is there with the photon only. But again, unless they satisfy some condition, you cannot tell that that phenomena is going on. Like for example, for interference there should be two coherent sources. So, unless there is two coherent sources, you should not expect that there is interference. Similarly, if you want to the diffraction, then there is also a condition. the length order of the wavelength must be comparable and compatible with the dimension of the object, may it be a slit or object or slit of any object, otherwise there is no diffraction. So, simultaneously all the phenomena are happening, but provided the conditions are satisfied there when the photon is interacting with the system. If not, that phenomena is not there. If yes, obviously it is there. But then now the question, let us say I will tell about the visible photon. When the visible photon is coming and interacting with the piece of stone lying on the earth surface, what kind of phenomena we are expecting? It is a daily phenomena, everybody every time realize it, right. There is a piece of stone lying on the surface of earth when you are walking or cycling or driving, everybody is looking after that kind of phenomena, and the photon is interacting with that piece of stone. But have you ever analyzed what is happening there? What is happening there? What you are expecting to be happen there? This piece of stone is covering almost all the branches of science. You can tell it will be physics, chemistry, life science, earth science, every science is there in this piece of stone, every science. So, if you come to the physics part I am telling, when photon is coming and interacting with that piece of stone, what kind of phenomena we are expecting? Reflection, refraction, interference, diffraction, polarization, absorption, transmission, they are all relevant phenomena for interaction of photons, right. Due to photon interaction only all those phenomena are happening around us, and those phenomena must have to satisfy some conditions, otherwise those phenomena will never take place. Then coming to the reflection, what do you mean by reflection? What is that phenomena? When you will tell that there is reflection of radiation, I am telling in general, not X-ray, not visible, not UV. What do you mean by a phenomena called as reflection? What do you mean by reflection phenomena? When the photon energy is coming back to the same media after interacting with some surface, that is called as the reflection phenomena, right. Photon has some energy, when it interacts with some surface, total amount of energy is coming back. If then only you can tell there is reflection, may it be totally or partially, does not matter, but it should come back to the same media from where it goes, then only you can tell that there is reflection. But at the same time the coefficient of reflection for materials are different, that depends on the surface behavior of the material, what kind of atoms, molecules are involved in the surface, whether it is smooth or rough. Depending on that, the coefficient of reflection for the material is defined, and that is the reason why you can never tell any surface is 100% reflective, cannot be, impossible. Not even the glass is 100% reflective surface, because the glass surface is never smooth, but with the length order like visible radiation and this piece of glass, you are telling it is smooth, but really it is never smooth. If you go to the atomic level, molecular level visualization, then you will see that the surface is never smooth. So, that matters, the length scale matters to understand any phenomena, right. You are telling, you are going to the laboratory verifying the laws of reflection, considering that glass is a or mirror is a good reflector, but can you tell that it is 100% reflector? No, not possible, right. The piece of mirror which is reflecting light in the laboratory you are doing the experiment is never a 100% reflector. You may tell it is a partial reflector, but can never be a complete reflector, because the surface itself is never smooth. But for our length scale order with which we are measuring, we are telling that glass is smooth. But if you go to the atomic scale length order or molecular scale length order, you will see the surface is not smooth. Hence, it is never perfectly reflecting surface. There is partial reflection, and by that only you are verifying the laws of reflection, right. So, imagine now if you will take the piece of stone, it may be a reflector or not, it may be a reflector, but all stones are not reflector, because the surface of all stones are not smooth. But if it is smooth, obviously there is reflection, that condition is satisfied. if there is a smooth surface and the photon is coming and interacting, there will be reflection, and similarly refraction, and similarly interference, diffraction, polarization, transmission, absorption, all are relevant to the photons, all, every phenomena. So, if you consider the visible part, you are visualizing with the help of our eye, then we are studying some phenomena which are visible to us, but many such phenomena are there which we can never visualize, never, because the length scale order for measurement of that kind of phenomena is not that easy task. You have to reach at that length order if you want to understand what kind of phenomena is going on, and for that purpose X-ray plays very important role. If you want to see atom, the dimension of the atom is comparable with the dimension of the X-ray wavelength, right. So, all atomic level information is collected from the days of discovery of X-rays till now, because of that reason, because the wavelength of X-ray is compatible and comparable with the dimension of the atoms, right. So, X-ray is helping in that way in various parts of our life, starting from scientific research, medical science, engineering science, everywhere there is X-ray. Without X-ray you cannot do anything. And XRD, X-ray diffraction, is the signature of characterizing any material, may it be engineering material, medical material or common material. It is a signature, you must have to see. Without that you can never tell in what way that material will behave, and therefore, for characterization XRD is the signature. So, therefore, now the question is how to see the atoms with the help of X-ray. Then only you can be tempted to know the production and properties of X-rays. Why we are so much interested to learn about X-ray? Because it helps us a lot in our day to day activities. So, therefore, now if I will tell how to collect the information with the help of X-ray at atomic length scale order, right. Once you are telling nanoscience or nanotechnology basically depends on what length scale order. When you are telling you are learning nanoscience or nanotechnology, there is a length order, right. What is the length order? Any nanometer, angstrom, this atom is also nanometer, 0.1 nanometer, but can it be belongs to nanoscience and nanotechnology? No, never, because the length order must be from 1 to 100 nanometer, remember it, right. It must be from 1 to 100 nanometer, then only you are learning nanoscience and nanotechnology, otherwise not. So, if the order scale, length order scale is from 1 to 100 nanometer, then the science is nanoscience and hence the corresponding technology is nanotechnology. But you have to come to that scale order. If it is not, nothing is nanoscience, nothing is nanotechnology. So, then when you are dealing with the atom, you can never tell that it is nanoscience, because the length scale order is 0.1 nanometer, much below 1 nanometer, right, much below 1 nanometer. But still you have to locate, identify the atoms in the material, because for example, if I will take 1 nanometer, then in 1 nanometer length how many atoms can be arranged? In 1 nanometer length how many atoms you can put? 10. How it is 100? Only 10. Now, imagine if 2 atoms are at a distance of 1 nanometer, right, and in 1 nanometer there are 10 atoms, whether the interactions are of same type or different type, obviously different, and that is the reason why people are now interested to learn about nanoscience and nanotechnology, right. If you go to that length scale order, the interaction is abruptly behaving in a different way for the material, abruptly the properties are changing because of that interaction only, because the atoms are very close enough and hence they behave in a different way, and that is the reason why people are now interested to learn about that kind of science and that kind of technology, that is called as nanoscience and nanotechnology, right, because the material will behave completely different. For example, if you take gold, how it looks like? All of you might have seen gold, right? What is the color of gold? I am telling only one property, that is optical property of gold. What is its color? Yellow, right? So, it can be a thin film, it can be a nano, right? But the gold that you are looking and telling that it is yellow is bulk gold, right? It is bulk gold, bulk material. But when you go for thin film gold and nano gold, are they behaving in the similar way or differently? Obviously, because the interactions are different, right? The interactions are different. If you take nano gold, it is never yellow, rather it is red, right. So, now try to distinguish when the interactions are different, their behavior and characters are different. So, the nano gold will never behave in the similar way like a bulk gold, it is because of interaction only. So, then now the question is now how to see those atoms. Why you are interested to learn about X-ray? That is the first question now. Why one should learn about X-ray? Because they give us enormous informations in science and technology, enormous, and that is the reason why one has to learn about the properties and uses of X-rays and the various techniques. All of you might have know about few, but many more are there to learn, right. You may know about XRD. Any other phenomena relevant to X-ray, anybody knows? Any other phenomena relevant to X-ray other than XRD, because XRD is there in solid state physics, right. Other than XRD, any other phenomena that you have learned in X-ray? There are many techniques, many phenomena with the help of X-ray which inform us many information at atomic scale length order, right, atomic scale length order. That is why it is important, and that is why you are interested to learn about those techniques, how it is helping us to collect information about that scale length order, which are atomic, molecular or ionic. And among few the techniques that we will follow or learn are XRD is known to you all, then one is another SAX, small angle X-ray scattering. Of course, this is wide angle X-ray scattering, XRD, right. Then a PIXI, XRF, XRP, these are all techniques which are giving the information at atomic, molecular or ionic length scale order. All the techniques, there are many more, I am telling few, and all are giving the information at that length scale order. So, now if I will first let us say about the diffraction part, let us come to the diffraction, which is a very common phenomena in our day to day activities. You remember one thing, the most common phenomena with photon we are coming across daily, you can tell every second, are diffraction and scattering, diffraction or scattering, which gives us enormous informations around us, enormous. Then now the question is, then what is scattering and what is diffraction? How we are collecting the information out of these two phenomena and why they are so important? Then if I will tell the scattering, then obviously or diffraction, right. These two are intimately connected with each other. Without scattering there is no diffraction, and that is why the common word here used is wide angle X-ray scattering and small angle X-ray scattering, although it is diffraction, because you can never isolate scattering from diffraction or vice versa. They are so intimately connected with each other, right. Then now what is the scattering phenomena and what is the diffraction phenomena and how it helps us in our day to day activities. So, then now the question is, when the length order is very important, because you see when you are telling length order of radiation is first, wavelength of the radiation, right, then dimension of the object that you want to see, what dimension, what length order you want to see. So, these two are very important. Length scale orders for these two are very important to go for any phenomena, right. So, then now if this is comparable, compatible, then there will be diffraction. All of you might have known there will be diffraction only when the order of the wavelength is comparable to dimension of the slit or the object. If not, no chance of diffraction. And similarly, when this wavelength is extremely large in comparison to the dimension of the object that you want to see, then that is scattering. How scattering and diffraction are differentiated on the length scale order. If the wavelength of radiation is much more larger in comparison to the dimension of the object, then there will be scattering. But if it is comparable, then it is diffraction. And then now how they are helping us? I am telling one example. All of you might have come across the grating experiment, right, relevant to which phenomena? Which phenomena? Diffraction phenomena. With what kind of radiation? What radiation you are using there? Is it monochromatic or polychromatic? Not monochromatic, it is dichromatic, it is never monochromatic. 5890 and 5896 angstrom are the wavelength. How it is monochromatic? It is dichromatic, right. So, but anyway these are visible radiations, right. So, then now why you are doing that experiment? To know, to understand the importance of diffraction. That is the objective of that experiment, right, to understand how diffraction can help us, right. That is the reason why that experiment was there. I am telling the example, if you are taking a grating, how many lines are there per unit length? The student grating, how many lines are there per unit length? 15,000 for students grating, not research. The grating with which you are doing the experiment is having 15,000 lines per centimeter, per inch, 15,000 lines per inch, right. So, then now how many number of slits are there parallelly? 14,999, right. How many parallel slits are there? 14,999 slits, which are all parallel to each other. So, there is some width of a line which is opaque, and in between two opaque lines there is a slit. So, alternatively slit and lines are there in that grating. Then if you are unknown, let us say there are not 15,000 lines, let it be 12,000 lines per inch, and somebody will give you, tell me how many number of lines are there in that piece of grating. How can you answer? No, I am telling, if somebody will give you a grating and ask you, tell me how many number of lines are there in this grating, how will you answer to that question? No solution, you cannot tell, not for you, for anybody. Nobody can tell how many number of lines are there per unit length by looking the grating, impossible. But diffraction give you that information, that is why it is important, which was not possible, it was made possible by diffraction experiment. That is why it is important, that is why you are learning. The thing which is impossible now made possible with the help of diffraction experiment, is not it? I am telling why, because you see when you are telling A plus B, what is this A plus B? Grating element, width of one line plus width of one slit. If width of one line is A, width of one slit is B, A plus B the grating element, right. So, with the help of this grating, what you are doing? You are finding only first order and theta 2 and theta 1, only that much you are doing in the experiment, right. You know how to get it, theta 1 and theta 2. Then what is the condition you are using there? Diffraction condition, it is this much or not? The diffraction condition, in general diffraction condition, remember n lambda is equal to x sin theta. X is the unknown quantity that you are determining from diffraction experiment, and here for grating it is a plus b, but for crystal it is twice d h scale. That depends what kind of information you want to collect. So, in general it is x sin theta, x is the unknown quantity that you want to get it from diffraction experiment. So, for grating that x is nothing but equal to a plus b, grating element, right. So, then now when you are telling it is first order, lambda is equal to a plus b sin theta 1, but when it is second order, 2 lambda is equal to a plus b sin theta 2, but your a plus b is changing or remaining same? It must be same, because that is the grating given to you. You cannot change the grating element, right, and you are getting this a plus b is equal to how much? From here it is lambda by sin theta 1, and from other it is lambda by 2 lambda by sin theta 2, but same a plus b, right. You are getting a plus b or not? You may go for third order, you may go for fourth order, which are not possible, but you are going up to second order, right. So, then now ultimately you can find out what is your grating element, right. You can find out what is the grating element a plus b of the given grating. Now, tell in this length of a plus b how many lines are there? Only one line or not? The length of a plus b covers how many lines? 1. So, in unit length divided by a plus b, that will tell you how many number of lines are there per unit length, which is impossible. Now, it is made possible by what? By the phenomena called as diffraction. Like that, many phenomena you are coming across in your day to day life, which helps in various ways, and similarly you distinguish first what is the scattering and what is diffraction. So, in broad sense you can tell, if you are telling an atom having nucleus and electron cloud around it, when the X-ray photon comes and interact with the atom, what happens first? Electron cloud comes first, right. Now, tell the electron will scatter the photon. Suppose for example, the photon wavelength is 1.54 angstrom or 0.154 nanometer. The wavelength of the photon X-ray is 0.154 nanometer. Let that photon comes and interact with an atom. Then what will happen at electronic level and atomic level? When the photon comes and interact with the electron, what will happen? In general, with the atom, what will happen? Are they same or different? They are different. With electron they scatter, with atom they diffract. That is the only difference, because the dimension of electron is much more smaller than the dimension of the wavelength. That is why that is scattering. The electron will scatter, right. But all the electrons, when they scatter, they superimpose constructively and destructively, so that the radiations after that going in certain directions, that is diffraction. So, in scattering directions are not restricted, but in diffraction directions are restricted. So, without scattering how can you get then diffraction? The electron scatters the photon, but the atom diffracts the X-ray photon. That is the difference. So, without scattering there is no chance of diffraction, right. So, diffraction is generally defined as the phase relationship among the scattered radiations, phase relationship among the scattered radiations. That is why without scattering no diffraction happens ever. So, next class we will go for the production part of X-ray.